The global grocery industry didn't just absorb a 30% price spike and call it a day. While everyone was arguing about the price of eggs at kitchen tables across America, retail corporations quietly deployed a $120 billion technological and structural overhaul that transformed the mundane act of buying food into a high-surveillance, hyper-optimized data extraction operation. You walk into your local supermarket today, and on the surface it looks like the same building you visited for a decade. Same bright overhead fluorescent lights, same produce displays, same generic background music. But the moment you grab a handle, cross the threshold, and step onto the linoleum tile, you are no longer just a customer buying a loaf of bread. You are a subject inside a live, real-time behavioral laboratory designed to extract two distinct currencies from you: the money in your wallet and every microscopic data point your body generates while walking the aisles. Look at the sheer scale of what is happening right now under our noses. Over 96% of major American grocery chains have aggressively phased out human cashiers in favor of self-checkout banks. Upward of 80% of large retailers are actively running real-time artificial intelligence algorithms above your head, feeding off camera feeds to track your body language, monitor your pauses, and analyze the exact moment you hesitate before putting an item into your cart. Millions of routine personal care items, from a $4 tube of toothpaste to basic baby formula, are now locked behind heavy glass doors, requiring an employee with a key or an app unlock code just to purchase. Meanwhile, smart shopping carts equipped with weight sensors, handle cameras, and digital screens are quietly logging every item you pick up, every item you put back, and every aisle you choose to skip. This isn't just about inflation. It's not even about corporate greed in the simple, old-fashioned sense. This is a fundamental, quiet rewrite of the social contract that has governed human commerce for a century. For decades, the basic equation was clear. A store provided a physical space, stocked inventory, hired neighborhood staff to assist you, and in return, you gave them revenue. Today, that entire paradigm has been inverted. The human labor has been systematically stripped out and pushed onto you, the customer. The relationship between store worker and shopper has been replaced by cold, frictionless software. The spatial design has been tightened into a physical choke point, where every single customer is implicitly treated as a potential security risk and a primary source of behavioral analytics. Here is the central anomaly that nobody in corporate retail wants to explain. If these advanced automated systems, self-checkouts, and artificial intelligence networks were built to make operations leaner, cut overhead, and make shopping faster, why does going to the grocery store today feel overwhelmingly slower, more stressful, colder, and drastically more expensive than it ever has in modern history? Why are stores spending billions to deploy friction-reducing technology while simultaneously locking basic consumer goods behind glass cases that destroy the customer experience and drive millions in lost sales? The answer to that paradox isn't sitting on a price tag. It rests deep inside a double-sided business model that operates in the shadows of the retail floor. One where the physical food sitting on the shelf is becoming secondary to the invisible infrastructure running above it. Think back to the last time you walked up to a self-checkout lane to grab 3 quick items. You scan the first item, you scan the second. On the third, a harsh red light flashes on top of the pole above you. A sharp, mechanical beep rings out, demanding, "Employee assistance!" You stand there, looking around an empty front end where one exhausted worker is overseeing 12 malfunctioning screens at once. You wait 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. In that quiet, frustrating window of time, a strange realization sets in. You are doing the labor. You are scanning the barcodes. You are bagging the product. You are taking on the operational risk. And yet, you are paying 30% more for the privilege of standing in a dark, unmanned aisle, waiting for an algorithm to clear a false flag on a box of cereal. This friction isn't an accident. It is the direct mathematical result of a hyper-calculated corporate trade-off. Retailers ran the numbers and realized that the financial losses from customer frustration, false theft flags, and broken social bonds are vastly outweighed by what they gain when they convert a brick-and-mortar storefront into an automated, data harvesting machine. And the scope of this transformation is expanding at a rate that traditional regulation cannot keep up with. Every time you scan a loyalty card to save 50 cents on coffee, every time your cart pauses in front of a seasonal display, every time you put an item back on the shelf because the package shrank by 3 ounces while the price stayed the same, a digital profile is being built. The grocery store of the 21st century has ceased to be a simple marketplace. It has become a twin-engine economic furnace that sells groceries with one hand and collects, aggregates, and monetizes human behavior with the other. What we are witnessing is the total disappearance of the neighborhood store, not through bankruptcy or boarded-up windows, but through an invisible digital replacement that kept the walls and changed everything else inside. To understand how American grocery stores transformed into high-surveillance, automated data centers, it is necessary to examine the specific economic levers, legal shifts, and corporate decisions that forced this evolution over the last 15 years. This shift was not driven by sudden technological fascination. It was executed as a desperate financial survival strategy by a traditional retail sector caught between razor-thin profit margins, skyrocketing labor costs, soaring real estate expenses, and the aggressive rise of e-commerce giants. Historically, the supermarket model operated on some of the tightest profit margins in the entire global economy. For decades, the average net profit margin for a traditional American grocery store hovered between 1% and 2%. Out of every dollar spent at a register, 98 cents went directly toward purchasing the inventory, paying store employees, funding electricity and refrigeration, and covering property leases. Under this financial framework, grocery chains could survive only through immense volume. They depended on high foot traffic and consistent inventory turnover to generate meaningful returns. The first major structural shock to this fragile economic model arrived following the financial crisis of 2008 and the subsequent decade of shifting consumer behavior. Major big-box competitors like Walmart and Target expanded their grocery operations aggressively, using their massive corporate scale to undercut regional supermarket chains on price. Simultaneously, the rise of e-commerce platforms forced traditional grocers to invest billions in cold chain logistics, order fulfillment infrastructure, and last-mile delivery services to prevent losing market share to online food delivery services. By the mid-2000s, corporate boardrooms faced a critical financial deadlock. They could not raise food prices significantly without immediately driving cost-conscious shoppers to discount competitors. At the same time, operating expenses were accelerating. Real estate costs for urban and suburban storefronts climbed steadily. Energy costs required to run commercial refrigeration units around the clock increased. Most importantly, corporate executives targeted store labor as their largest controllable operating expense. In a traditional supermarket, labor costs historically accounted for roughly 50% to 60% of total store operating expenses, excluding the wholesale cost of goods sold. When states across the country began incremental increases to local minimum wage laws throughout the 2000s, supermarket executives calculated that maintaining traditional staffing levels would completely eliminate their remaining 1% profit margin. The industry response was swift, uniform, and heavily reliant on capital expenditure. Retailers began replacing human labor with automated hardware. Self-checkout terminals, which had existed in rudimentary forms since the late 1990s, underwent massive technical updates and widespread deployment. A standard front-end checkout area that previously required 6 to 8 paid cashiers alongside dedicated baggers was consolidated into a single supervisor monitoring 8 to 12 automated kiosks. This mechanical transition yielded immediate payroll reductions on corporate balance sheets, but it triggered an immediate, unforeseen operational crisis, an explosive spike in inventory shrinkage. Inventory shrinkage, the industry term for lost, stolen, damaged, or unrecorded merchandise, became the primary threat to store profitability. By removing human cashiers who inspected every item at the point of sale, retailers opened massive operational vulnerabilities. Unintentional scanning errors, deliberate barcode swapping, and outright shoplifting at self-checkout terminals surged nationwide. According to data from retail research groups, loss rates at self-checkout stations were documented at nearly double the rate of traditional cashier-staffed lanes. For an industry running on a 1% net margin, losing 2% of inventory to point-of-sale shrinkage represented the difference between annual profitability and catastrophic operating losses. To combat this rising financial drain without rehiring human cashiers, which would negate the achieved labor savings, retailers turned toward physical containment and electronic surveillance. Beginning around 2018, major chains initiated systematic store redesigns. High-value and high-theft categories, including infant formula, cosmetics, over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, razor blades, and premium spirits, were moved behind locked acrylic display cases. The immediate result of locking merchandise was a secondary operational failure. Studies conducted by retail analytics firms demonstrated that locking items behind glass caused direct sales drops of 15% to 25% in those specific product categories. Shoppers, faced with pressing call buttons and waiting several minutes for understaffed store teams to unlock a $4 item, routinely abandoned the purchase entirely or bought the product online. Faced with declining sales from physical locks and intolerable inventory loss from open self-checkouts, the corporate retail sector initiated a massive technological pivot around 2020. Major supermarket chains began partnering with specialized defense contractors, computer vision startups, and artificial intelligence firms. The goal was simple: build an invisible digital surveillance framework that could secure inventory and monitor customer movement in real time without creating physical barriers that stop sales. Over the last 5 years, corporate capital investment shifted decisively away from physical store upgrades and heavily toward digital infrastructure. Retailers installed high-resolution overhead camera arrays, optical sensors, and weight-measuring shelf grids. They integrated advanced algorithmic software capable of analyzing human movement patterns, detecting unscanned items in real time, and tracking product removal directly from store shelves. Concurrently, a second economic driver accelerated this transformation: the rise of retail media networks and behavioral data monetization. Grocery executives realized that the physical foot traffic passing through their aisles held immense commercial value for consumer packaged goods manufacturers like Procter & Gamble, Kraft Heinz, and PepsiCo. By installing digital screens on shelves, smart handles on shopping carts, and tracking systems throughout the store, grocers created an entirely new, highly profitable revenue stream. Instead of relying solely on selling physical groceries at a 1% margin, supermarkets began selling anonymized, real-time consumer data, shelf space analytics, and targeted digital advertising inside their physical stores. Today, retail media networks represent one of the fastest-growing and highest-margin segments in the entire retail industry, generating profit margins estimated between 70% and 80%. The historical grocery store model, built on human service and volume food sales, was permanently replaced by an automated, data-driven real estate platform. The implementation of automated surveillance and data harvesting infrastructure across American retail has entered an aggressive operational phase. What began as scattered pilot projects in loss prevention technology has consolidated into standard operating protocol for national supermarket chains, regional grocery cooperatives, and big box distributors across the United States. This technological rollout operates across 3 primary, highly integrated systems: overhead computer vision networks, intelligent point-of-sale loss prevention algorithms, and physical tracking hardware embedded directly within store equipment. Inside modern retail facilities, overhead camera networks operate continuously above sales floors. Companies like Everseen, Standard AI, and Stoplift provide computer vision systems trained on hundreds of thousands of hours of retail footage. These camera arrays do not merely record static video for retroactive review after a theft occurs. Instead, they process real-time visual feeds using edge computing hardware installed inside the store's server rooms. The software tracks spatial movement, product interaction, and shopper dwell times down to fractions of a second. When a customer approaches a shelf, ceiling-mounted sensors detect body positioning and hand movements. If an individual removes 3 units of a high-value product, such as premium coffee or over-the-counter medicine, and places them into a basket, the system registers the item removal. If those same items are removed from the basket and returned to a different shelf 3 aisles away, the system logs a product displacement event. This granular data allows retail management to track inventory location in real time, while building predictive heat maps showing which physical displays generate the highest customer engagement relative to completed purchases. At the front-end checkout zone, point-of-sale surveillance has achieved near-total automation. Major self-checkout hardware manufactured by NCR Voyix, Diebold Nixdorf, and Toshiba now comes pre-equipped with overhead optical sensors and weight calibration plates built into the bagging areas. These systems execute a process known in the industry as real-time ticket switching and pass-by detection. When a shopper passes an item over the scanner, top-down cameras evaluate the visual shape, color, and size of the object, cross-referencing it instantly with the barcode data received by the register. If a customer attempts to scan a low-cost item, such as a bag of onions, while holding a high-value item, such as a ribeye steak, the computer vision algorithm detects the visual mismatch. The transaction halts instantly, the overhead light changes color, and a video clip of the disputed scanning motion plays back directly on the user interface screen while alerting store supervisors. Beyond loss prevention, the integration of smart shopping cart hardware represents the newest frontier in physical store analytics. Technology vendors like Instacart, through its Capercart division, alongside competitors like Vive and Cust2Mate, have deployed thousands of digitized carts to retail floors nationwide. These carts feature touchscreens mounted on the handlebars, embedded artificial intelligence cameras lining the rim of the basket, and bottom-mounted weight scales. As items are dropped into a smart cart, the internal cameras identify the product visually, without requiring the shopper to locate or manually align a physical barcode. The weight sensors verify the item mass against national product databases to prevent unrecorded items from entering the basket. Simultaneously, the handle-mounted touchscreen displays targeted digital advertisements based on the shopper's current location within the physical building. If the cart pauses in the pasta aisle for longer than 8 seconds, the screen presents a real-time promotional discount on a complimentary marinara sauce located 2 feet away. This level of physical and digital tracking relies entirely on customer participation through corporate loyalty programs and mobile applications. To access promotional pricing, digital coupons, or smart cart features, shoppers routinely provide personal phone numbers, email addresses, and payment credentials. Retailers correlate this personal identification data directly with physical store movement, past purchase histories, and online browsing habits. The financial data generated by these integrated systems feeds directly into retail media networks, which have become major profit centers for companies like Walmart, Kroger, and Target. These networks aggregate shopper behavioral metrics and sell targeted advertising access to consumer packaged goods conglomerates. In financial filings, major grocery chains report that income derived from retail media platforms carries operating margins exceeding 70%, compared to the traditional 1% to 2% margins generated by physical food sales. However, the widespread deployment of these technologies has created severe operational friction and public backlash. False positive alerts at automated self-checkouts routinely freeze transactions for innocent customers, creating long queues and requiring manual intervention from understaffed store teams. Furthermore, independent audits of facial recognition and behavioral analysis algorithms have raised persistent concerns regarding demographic bias, incorrect theft flagging, and the unconsented harvesting of biometric data in public commercial spaces. Despite growing consumer dissatisfaction and mounting regulatory scrutiny regarding privacy rights, retail corporations continue to expand these systems. The economic incentive structure has fundamentally shifted. For corporate retail executives, the physical grocery store is no longer designed purely as a point of distribution for food products. It functions as an automated, highly monitored data collection environment where every customer interaction, movement, and delay is continuously measured, processed, and converted into financial value.